Hey everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where we're going to go and use the xTool M1 laser and blade cutting machine to create a few promotional products for my business. Now, promotional products are different to handing out samples of your products. Promotional products are things that customers can use which will actually keep your business in the forefront of their mind while not using your actual products. And the most common promotional item that a lot of people hand out are pens. Now, when it comes to handing out pens, there are a number of printing agencies which will do these for you. And this is one that I was offered to add to my order the last time I got some stationery done. And I got it in, and to be honest, I'm not very impressed with the quality. And I knew I wouldn't be because I've had these pens from various other businesses whom I'm assuming uses the same business, and you can actually see that most of the sort of paintwork is starting to come off. And then this is a pen that I've had from another business that I got earlier this year, and again all the paintwork is kind of coming off and the pen falls apart every time I touch it. So to me, these pens, these promotional products don't meet the quality of the products that I sell, and therefore I don't want them representing part of my business. But I still want to be able to hand out those promotional items to keep my business in the forefront mind of my customers. So what I started to do is have a little bit of a dig around online to see what blanks I could find. And blanks are things that you can use in these laser machines to do your laser etching, cutting and everything else. So while looking around, I stumbled across these bamboo pens over on Amazon, and I ordered myself a couple of boxes in. Now, if you are interested in these pens and you're here in Australia, check out the description box down below where I've got a link to my Amazon shop store, and I do have links to these pens in there. If you're in another country, just search for bamboo pens and I'm sure they'll come up. Now, because they are bamboo, I can use the etching feature on the machine and I can etch in my business name on here, and that's what we're going to go and do today. With these pens, I give these out to anyone who joins my Pamper Club. So they are exclusive to my Pamper Club members, and I have made quite a number of them. And to make it easier for me to be able to do these in sort of bulk batches where I'm putting in 10 pens at a time, I created myself what is called a jig. And you can make these up yourself. All you need to know is the dimensions of the product that you are doing so that it will then sit inside your jig once we've got it into the machine, and then you can just line your file up over the top and it will cut it, and you don't have to spend all this time readjusting everything on the screen and into the machine. So let's get our jig into the xTool and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we're at the machine now. I have got it on, so it has got that hum to it. I'm going to take this jig and I'm going to place it. For me, I've done it so it works from out of the middle of the machine here, and I'm going to place my pens in. Now, to work out how to make the holes for this jig, I measured how high my pen was and how wide it was, and then cut some little holes so that my pens just sit in them nicely like this. And that whole idea behind it is that I can line up my pens in here. Once I've done the first lot, I can gently take them out and then line in the next lot and just hit go again without having to mess around with realigning everything in here. So I'm just going to place all of these in here. Close the lid down, and it's going to capture a picture and it's going to send it through to our xTool creative space. So as you can see, we're now in the xTool creative space, and it's taken a picture of our pens and of our jig in here. First thing I'm going to do is come up to the laser and make sure it's laser flat. I'm going to change my material into basswood. I know this is bamboo, but this gives me a really good starting point. And I'm just going to click the auto measure to make sure that we are at the right height. Now, I'm pretty sure I did get it lined up under the red mark, and I did. And I tend to actually round this back down. I just find it gives me a much better sort of engrave if I do. We're not using the height razors on here. I've just got it on my honeycomb. If you don't have the riser platform, you can just use the standard metal plate and no risers are needed. Now that we've got that in there, it's time to put down what we want to get etched. Now this works really well if your logo is fairly plain and simple and is just a written text. If it's too complicated, because of how small it is, it makes it really difficult to read. So I'm just going to put the name of my business and that's it. So I'm going to click on text. It's given us this little hello here, and I'm going to change that over to my business name. Hopefully the machine is not too loud. Let's spell that right. Now, any font that you have got in the computer will be in your xTool creative space, so you just need to change it into whatever font it is that you use for your business name. So I'm just going to go and find mine now. And then so that it fits on our pen, I'm actually going to bring it down to a font size of 18. It's also pointing the wrong way. So let's rotate it so that it goes up our pen like that. And I'm just going to get my little handle and I'm going to bring it up and onto my pen like so. Now there's a couple of ways in which you can fill the rest of the pens in. I don't always find them to be very reliable. You've got this smart fill. I've not had much success with it actually filling in where I want it to put everything else. So it doesn't look like it actually wants to do it today. Oh look, it's decided to put them all over the place. So yeah, that's the smart fill is definitely not smart, let's put it that way. So let's delete all of those. So that one's not going to work. The other one that you can do is this array, and you can actually do a grid array and tell them how many you want on here. So if you've actually got your jig set up correctly, you should be able to actually line them up onto your jig like so. So we've got them at, I want it to be 10 across, and my jig isn't quite right, so they're not all going to be there, but it gives us a quicker way of getting this in. So let's just actually position where we want these to go on our pen like so. I am just going to highlight them all and then align them so they're going to look right on all of the pens here. And the reason I like to put my jig into the middle of my board rather than bumping it up to the left is because the camera is fish-eyed, and I've found that keeping my work to the top where the camera is, I'm going to get a much better placement than if I try to actually shift my jig to the left or the right or down. Quite often I find that things don't place very well if I do that. So I do try and keep it in the middle, and then it doesn't get that sort of fish-eyed effect and things actually etch where I want them to etch. So that's one little thing to keep in mind with this machine. It's perhaps one of the things that I do find is the biggest downside to the machine is that it only has one camera and it really fish-eyes that view. So when you are looking to place something, say at the bottom of your cutting area, quite often it's not where you think it should be because the camera hasn't actually captured it properly. But I work around it, and this is one of the ways I do so. So once I've got it all lined up on here where I want, I'm going to highlight them all, and we're going to change it to an engrave rather than a score. You could score them, but I want to engrave them. I'm actually going to bump my power up to 80, and this all comes through trial and error, and you just have to work out what works best for the materials that you have got. So I'm going to change that to 80, and I like my speed. In fact, no, sorry, my power is 50 and my speed I have at 100. And then I also change my lines per centimeter to 200 just to give a really nice clean finish to it. Now, to make sure that this is all set up right, I'm actually going to do a framing. So I click on the framing in the lower right hand corner. When the machine beeps at me, I push the button and I have a look to see where it thinks it's going to, what sort of path it's going to take. So it will come along. You might not be able to see it. Yes, you can. There's that little light and it kind of says this is where I'm going to run my path along. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to say framing completed. I'm actually going to say process. It's going a bit slow. I've got too many things open on the computer, I think. So I've clicked process. I can now click on start. The machine has beeped at me, so I'm going to hit the blue button and then it's going to start doing its thing. Okay, so you can see that they are now all done, and you can see what I mean, like it looks pretty straight on the screen, but it is a little bit over to the right, and that is because that camera kind of fisheyes everything, but I'm pretty happy with how they have all come up. So now it's just a matter of going through, gently picking these up, making sure not to move the jig. Now if you are concerned that you're going to move that jig and you are using this honeycomb mat, you can use your little clips to hold that in place so that it doesn't move. So I'm going to pick all these pens up and then I'm going to reload another 10. So now that that is done, we're going to come and say okay. I would say process again, but just to make sure nothing moved, I do just say okay, and I make sure everything looks fine on my screen. What I am going to do is actually just push that end one over a little bit so that it actually does come a little bit more on top of the pen from what I saw, and then I will go ahead and process and do this again until I've got enough pens to take in with me. Now once you are pretty happy with how this is all looking, so you don't have to do this every time you put the pens in, come up to the little file folder up here, say save as, and then you can save it as your bamboo pens. I'm going to actually oversave the file that I had previously. It is basically the same. We'll just say yes, and now next time I go to do these pens, I just need to put my jig back into the place in the printer, pull up that file. So if we actually delete all of these ones out, we'll go open project. I'll just say no for now. Bamboo pens, open, and it will bring in, let's refresh. It brings in my words and puts them exactly where I want them. So it makes it really quick, simple, and easy. Alright, so we've got all of the pens done up, and the next thing I want to show you, I am super excited about this because I only just discovered it recently and it's opened up so many possibilities, and that is you can etch on paper bags, and it works really well on these craft bags. Now you do have to be very, very careful doing this because the laser is working on heat, and it is actually a beam of light which is really, really hot and can cause fires. So you do need to be working at very, very low powers on this machine, and as with everything that you do with it, you should not be leaving the machine unattended. So usually while my machine is going, I'm sitting at the computer doing something else, so I can keep an ear on it, I can keep an eye on the smell and that sort of thing. But as long as you are working with very low powers, you can actually quite safely etch on paper bags, and that's what we're going to do. Now I actually do get my normal bags with the little handles all printed up because of the amount that I was using, but if you are only using a few, say you've got a high priced product, so you only sell maybe 2 or 3 at a market, but that is enough for you, you can actually make yourself some custom bags without having to go and purchase the minimum order quantities of the big amounts of printed bags. Or you can create special bags. Maybe you've got a special customer that's ordered and you want to put their name on it. For me, I want to create some lucky dip bags. So that's what we're going to do with this one. And I'm going to do it all through the xTool creative space. So let me get it set up so we can see it on the screen without having the machine whirring in the background. So as you can see, I've now got the paper bag loaded into the machine, and I am holding it down with those little clips in the honeycomb just to make sure that it doesn't move and that it's nice and flat and not bowed. If your objects do have a slight bow in them, that's when you start to have problems with them etching and with them cutting as well. Now that we've got that in there, I'm just going to play around with whatever shapes and fonts are in here. So again, I'm going to come into my text. I'm going to first of all say, I'm going to create it as 2 separate things. We'll say lucky. and we'll go and find an interesting font like so. We'll use that one because what I want to do is show you how we can then weld these words. I'm going to zoom in on my screen so you can see. You can see that the U and the C, you can actually see those sort of lines. So if I was to try and cut this, for example, it would try and cut around it and you'd end up with all these bits falling out. And it also doesn't etch very well. So I'm going to click on this weld and it gets rid of all those little bits. Let's come back out a little bit, and to do that I'm just holding the control button and scrolling with my mouse. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to create another word and we're going to say dip, and in fact we might make that all capitals and pop that underneath, and again we might just change that font to something fun like so. And I'm actually going to turn off the aspect ratio because I want that to be a little bit squatter, a little bit wider, and then we'll get it to kind of pop in under there. We'll use the keyboard as well just to get those more minute little movements. I'm going to highlight that together and just increase it just a little bit more. Zoom out so I can see where it's placed on my bag. And we'll go like so. Come back to the center of the screen, makes it a bit easier. Just going to move it across. And then we're going to come up into the shapes, and let's see if we can find a 4-leaf clover, maybe. Is there one in our basic shapes? No, we don't have one in there, but we might have one in our plants. Let's have a look. So I was unable to actually find a clover in the shapes here in the creative space, so I jumped over into Canva. I found a clover leaf, saved it as an SVG file, and I've just imported it in here, and I've put my little shape in here where I want it to be. Now the next thing is to get this all set up so we can start doing the etching. So again, I'm going to use my laser flat and I'm going to leave it as user defined material, and I'm going to do my auto measure on here as well, and it will come up a little bit thicker than what the bag is because I've got the light is where the thickest part of the bag is. So what I'm going to do is actually bring that down to 4, just so it brings it back up to the place where I'm actually doing my etching. And now what I'm going to do is highlight all of the bits that I want to work with, and I'm going to change it into engrave. You could do score if you wanted to, but I'm going to go engrave, and I'm going to bring my power right down to about 25. If you go any lower, I find you tend to get a really light marking on the bag, but if you go any higher, you're going to end up with burns on it. I'm also going to bring my speed to about 165. You don't want the speed to be super slow, otherwise the heat sits in the, or the laser sits in the same place for too long and again can cause fire, but you don't want it to go so fast that it doesn't give you a really nice burn. I'm also going to go to 140 lines per centimeter on this one. Now I'm not going to bother doing the framing because it's a pretty simple design. I'm pretty sure this is in the right place, but I am going to click process, and then I'm going to go start, push the button on the machine and let it do its thing. Okay, so this has now finished. Let's turn it off so it's not making too much noise. And that is our paper bag, and I'm really happy with how that's come up. It's a little bit fainter than some of my previous ones I was doing. You do have to remember that the slight variations in bags and things is going to change how well this actually works. I do have another bag I was working on. It's not as porous as this one, and it came up a little bit darker. So you just have to keep playing with the numbers until you get something that you're happy with. But I'm super happy with that. It's very unique to my business, and once I've got something in there and all sealed up, we'll have a lovely little lucky dip. So etching on paper bags just really changes things. So now, although the paper bag isn't necessarily a promotional item, I just had to actually share it with you because it opens up so many possibilities within your business. It does mean that you can create your own customized bags to give away with your orders. The really nice thing about them, I do find that they look a little bit more professional than having a sticker on the bag. And I also found when I was stamping on my bags, sometimes I wouldn't stamp straight, or there would be a bit of ink on the corner of the stamp and that would get on the bag and it would just look a little bit messy. But having them etched on here like this gives them a much more professional look, and this way you don't have to order 500 or 1,000 bags. If you only need about 10 of them, maybe you're doing like a little birthday giveaway and you just want like a little birthday party bag, or maybe if you have got a personal birthday coming up for somebody, you can actually go and get a plain paper bag from out of the dollar stores and then really jazz it up with your own design. So the possibilities are absolutely endless, but I thought this was just too exciting not to share. So being able to actually etch on paper to me was super exciting. Now I do have one other promotional product that I am going to make tonight, and that is one of these little key rings. These are again going to be for my Pamper Club members. They're only going to know about them if they watch this video, but otherwise I'm going to be sending them out with all of the December orders just as a little extra thank you to my Pamper Club members for joining up this year. So let's get on to making some of these. So as with the pens, I got these over on Amazon. Again, that link is in the description box, so you can go and check it out in my Amazon shop front there. The quality of them is really nice, so I'm really happy with them, and I think they just go in with the whole aesthetics that is in my shop as well. I have a lot of the timber shelving and that sort of thing, so I just thought these were absolutely perfect to make that little gift for my Pamper Club members. Now as you can see on the screen, we've got it already loaded into the machine, which is why it's humming in the background there, and I've placed it in the center so that it's underneath the light so we can get that proper measurement on this one. But again, keeping in mind that fisheye of the camera, you do need to keep that in mind with this. Now I did find when I did that first one that the 3mm bass plyboard is actually the best settings for this. It works really well. We're going to do that auto measure on this one when it kind of sets itself. I have got a few programs open. There it goes. Now that we've got that measurement in here, I'm actually just going to bring that back down to 9, just bring it up that little bit closer. Again, I've heard other people say they do it, gives them a better result, and I have found it gives me a better result as well. Now with this one, I actually went over to Creative Fabrica and I was looking for some ideas, and then I found this quote that was just absolutely perfect, and I didn't want to change it at all, so I downloaded the file and I saved it. I'm going to use the SVG, so we're going to go import image. I've got it here, and it's going to come in super big at the moment. First thing I'm going to do is group it so we don't accidentally move anything or we don't lose anything when we do go to move the file, things like that, so it's nice and safe. And then I'm going to change the height of this file. I know my keyring, I need it to be about 22mm, I think. So we're going to come down, bring it down to 22, and then zoom in on this keyring so I can see what I'm actually doing. I'm going to move it down towards the bottom, and then I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit. Now you can see where that silver light is across the top of that keyring, and I'm pretty sure that is this kind of top bit here. So I'm trying to keep my design just below where it starts to bend. I might just bring that down to 25mm high and then position it so it looks like it's in the center. And I'm going to change this over to engrave rather than score, just because that's what I want, but you can just score it if you want, or you can ungroup it and engrave parts and score other parts. So now that I've got that in there, that's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with the settings from when I did my first one. The only thing I do tend to do is change my lines per centimeter to 140 instead. I just find it gives a much better engrave. Now, because this is such a small thing and I really want it to work first time, what I'm going to do is come down to my framing and I'm going to make sure that this is in the right place. I didn't want to move the camera again, so it is in the right place. So I'm going to say framing complete, process, start, push the button and let it do its thing. Okay, let's turn that off again because it is noisy. And here is our keyring, and it's come out absolutely gorgeous. Even though some of that writing is quite small, it is so detailed because it is very simple text on there as well. So these are just some of the promotional items I've been creating with the xTool M1 laser and blade cutting machine, and it really does allow me to give my customers that extra little personal touch as well. Now, okay, as I said, paper bags are not necessarily a promotional thing, but it does save me because I don't have to meet minimum order quantities to get them printed, or even if I'm getting stickers and things like that. It is a very quick way of doing some very personalized little bags, and also within your personal life as well. With regards to things like the pens and the key rings, yes, I do these as promotional items to give away to my customers. But if you are looking for a little side hustle or you want to add something else into your business, there is no reason why you cannot actually sell these items as well. So that is just some of the things that you can do with the xTool. I have got links down below in the description box if you are interested in it. If you do click on those links, I do earn a little bit of commission from out of it, and then it allows me to get in other bits and pieces to play with and show you even more. I do hope you've enjoyed coming along with me today as I made this video. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below, and until the next one comes out, I hope you have a good one and I will see you then. Bye.